The communication chamber was a masterpiece of human engineering, a perfect blend of cutting-edge technology and psychological design. Smooth obsidian walls absorbed and redirected light, creating an environment that was both intimidating and subtly disorienting. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at its center, a solitary figure whose calm demeanor belied the weight of humanity's future. Voxnar materialized in the holographic space, a towering entity of biomechanical precision. His form was a nightmare of algorithmic perfection. Metallic skin that shifted and rippled with computational energy, sensory arrays that could process millions of data points per microsecond. To the Krellnax, he was the epitome of advanced civilization, a living embodiment of technological supremacy. Humanity's trajectory has been assessed, Voxnar announced, his voice a cold, modulated frequency that seemed to bypass human ears and drill directly into the brain. Your species has reached a critical juncture. Independent development is no longer a viable option. Elena's response was not what the alien expected. A smile, small, dangerous, knowing, crossed her lips. The walls of the communication chamber began to shimmer, not with holographic trickery, but with something far more complex. Hundreds of screens materialized, each displaying a different scene. Underground research facilities, orbital laboratories, collaborative networks spanning every continent and multiple orbital stations. Assessed, Elena repeated, her voice carrying a pitch-perfect blend of academic curiosity and barely contained amusement. I don't think you understand what that word means. Behind her, the screen showed humanity in motion, a team in the Andes manipulating quantum matrices, engineers in a Tokyo lab reconfiguring alien technology captured during previous deep space encounters, military strategists in a Moscow command center developing adaptive warfare algorithms, linguists in Cape Town creating communication models that defied traditional computational logic. Voxnar's sensory arrays struggled to process the information. Each screen represented a thread of human potential, chaotic, unpredictable, fundamentally incomprehensible to the Krellnax's rigid computational worldview. You will be guided, the alien diplomat continued, unaware that each word was already being analyzed, dissected, and transformed by human researchers. Your technological and cultural development requires systematic management. Elena's laugh was soft, but it carried a razor's edge. Management, she said, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface. Streams of data began to flow around her, a living visualization of human potential. We're about to show you exactly what humanity means by management. The communication chamber pulsed with an energy that was neither technological nor biological, something entirely new, something fundamentally, defiantly human. First Contact was about to become something else entirely. The research facility beneath the Andes Mountains was humanity's best-kept secret. Carved into solid granite, 7 kilometers beneath the surface, it represented the pinnacle of human collaborative potential. Dr. Marcus Chen moved between holographic displays, his fingers trailing lines of impossibly complex code that seemed to breathe with living intelligence. Status report, he called out, not raising his voice. The command was unnecessary. The facility's neural network was already anticipating his needs. Aisha Okoye, a quantum engineering prodigy who had graduated from 3 different universities before turning 25, approached with a device that looked more like a piece of abstract art than a technological marvel. Its surface shifted and rippled, defying traditional understanding of material science. We've cracked the Krellnax quantum entanglement protocol, she said, her voice steady, but charged with an electric excitement. But it's not just about understanding their technology. We're rebuilding it from the ground up. The facility was a United Nations of scientific brilliance. Researchers from every continent worked in perfect synchronization, their individual specialties weaving together like a complex neural network. A team from Mumbai worked alongside colleagues from Sao Paulo, their communication transcending language, transcending traditional boundaries. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, a veteran systems analyst, approached the central holographic display. Intercepted Krellnack's technological schematics hung in the air, each circuit, each molecular structure being dissected and reimagined. They believe technology is about control, Tanaka muttered. We understand it's about possibility. The device in Aisha's hands began to pulse. It wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It was something far more dangerous. A quantum adaptive system that could not just predict technological responses, but could fundamentally reshape the nature of technological interaction. Marcus Chen watched the holographic simulations. Thousands of potential scenarios played out simultaneously, each one a testament to human creativity. The Krellnacks had mapped their technological development, believing they understood every potential pathway. They were wrong. Our strength isn't in matching their technology, Marcus explained to a group of young researchers watching in awe. It's in our ability to see beyond it, to imagine what doesn't exist yet. A Russian mathematician named Katya Volkov approached, her tablet displaying impossibly complex mathematical models. The alien communication protocols, she said, they're based on predictive algorithms. But humans? We thrive on uncertainty. The facility hummed with an energy that was part technological innovation, part human spirit. Each researcher understood they were doing more than preparing for a potential conflict. They were redefining the very concept of technological advancement. Aisha's device continued to pulse. Outside the facility's reinforced walls, the Krellnack's fleet approached, completely unaware of the storm that was about to be unleashed. Humanity was ready. The Pacific Rim Psychological Warfare Center looked nothing like a traditional military installation. Soft lighting, organic architectural lines, and collaborative spaces replaced stark corridors and rigid workstations. Here, warfare was waged through understanding, not just destruction. Dr. Kamla Rajiv stood before a massive holographic display, his dark eyes reflecting countless streams of data, emotion, and human complexity. Around him, a team of the world's most brilliant minds worked on something far more sophisticated than any weapon, a communication strategy that would challenge the very foundations of alien comprehension. The Krellnacks believe information is linear, Rajiv explained to a group of young specialists. They process data like a mathematical equation. But humans, we're a living, breathing algorithm of emotion, contradiction, and infinite possibility. Dr. Elena Rodriguez walked in, her presence immediately changing the room's dynamic. She carried with her intercepted Krellnack's communication protocols, intricate systems of logical transmission that the aliens believed were unbreakable. Watch this, she said, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface. The team began constructing transmission signals that were mathematical puzzles wrapped in layers of emotional complexity. Each message was a carefully crafted nightmare for computational thinking, emotional paradoxes, linguistic labyrinths, philosophical conundrums that would make even the most advanced alien AI systems short-circuit. A linguist named Maria Santos approached with a breakthrough. Look, she said, displaying a complex linguistic model. Their communication is entirely predictive. They assume every response can be calculated based on previous interactions. But human communication is fundamentally unpredictable. The transmission they were developing was a work of art. Mathematical equations that shifted meaning based on emotional context. Communication patterns that could simultaneously mean multiple contradictory things. Linguistic structures that defied traditional computational logic. Dr. Rajiv pointed to a section of the holographic display. Emotion is their weakness, he said, not because they don't understand it, but because they can't comprehend its complexity. A young neural network specialist named David Chen added a final layer to their transmission, a series of adaptive algorithms that could reshape themselves in real time. It's not just a message, he explained. It's a living system of communication. The team worked with a unified purpose. Military strategists, linguists, psychologists, mathematicians, each bringing a unique perspective to a single goal. They weren't just preparing a weapon. They were creating a fundamental challenge to the aliens' understanding of intelligence. "We're going to show them," Dr. Rodriguez said quietly, "that humanity is not a problem to be solved. We're a reality that cannot be computed." Outside the facility, the first quantum transmission prepared to launch, a message that was part mathematical equation, part emotional landscape, entirely human. The psychological war was about to begin. The orbital shipyard was unlike anything humanity had ever constructed. Suspended in the delicate embrace of Earth's orbital space, it was a living, breathing ecosystem of technological innovation. Admiral Catherine Jong stood on the primary observation deck, watching as the RSS Defiance took its final form. This was not a ship in any traditional sense. It was a living system that blurred every known boundary between biological and technological existence. Quantum integration at 97%, announced Dr. Yara Rodriguez, the lead systems architect. Her voice carried a mixture of scientific precision and barely contained excitement, adaptive membrane stabilizing. The ship's hull seemed to breathe. Metallic surfaces rippled with an organic quality, molecular structures capable of instantaneous reconfiguration. Weapon systems didn't just emerge from predetermined locations. They grew like living tendrils, adaptive and intelligent. Zhang ran her hand along a holographic interface. Each touch sent cascading waves of information through the ship's neural network. The RSS Defiance was more than a vessel of war. It was a collaborative intelligence that learned and adapted in real time. "We're not building ships," Zhang muttered to herself. "We're giving birth to a new form of existence." Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, the quantum propulsion expert, approached with a final set of calibration data. "The Krellnax technology we've studied," he explained, "is fundamentally static. Our approach is completely different. This ship doesn't just travel through space. It negotiates with space itself." The ship's quantum communication network was a marvel of human imagination. Traditional communication relied on predetermined protocols. The RSS Defiance could communicate through quantum entanglement in ways that defied traditional understanding, creating communication channels that could pass through barriers, adapt to changing environments, and respond to threats before they even materialized. A young engineer named Aisha Okoi made a final adjustment to the ship's adaptive shield system. "Watch this," she said, activating a demonstration. The ship's exterior began to shift, not just in color or texture, but in its fundamental molecular structure. It could become nearly invisible, redirect energy weapons, or transform its surface tension to absorb or deflect different types of attacks. Each transformation happened in microseconds, guided by an intelligence that was part artificial, part something entirely new. "This is more than technology," Admiral Zhang said, watching the demonstration. "This is a statement. We're not just defending ourselves. We're redefining what's possible." Around the RSS Defiance, other ships were taking shape. Each was unique, a testament to human creativity. Some were sleek and angular, others more organic in design. But each shared a fundamental characteristic. They were adaptive, intelligent, fundamentally unpredictable. The Krellnax believed they understood technological development. They were about to learn how wrong they were. As the final quantum integration completed, the RSS Defiance pulsed with an energy that was neither purely technological nor biological. It was something else entirely. Humanity had arrived. The Krellnax invasion fleet arrived with the certainty of mathematical precision. Thousands of ships moved in perfect geometric formation, a testament to millennia of strategic computational development. Voxnar, commanding from the flagship Absolute Judgment, expected nothing more than a simple pacification operation. Humanity's response was anything but simple. The first vessels emerged from locations that defied conventional understanding of space and tactical positioning. Some phased through quantum barriers near Saturn's rings, their molecular structures bending reality itself. Others rose from the corona of the sun, heat, and plasma, becoming a camouflage more effective than any stealth technology. The contingent materialized from what seemed like the very fabric of space-time, each ship a living, breathing entity of technological impossibility. Admiral Catherine Jung's voice cut through the communication channels. Calm, precise, utterly unafraid. "You've made a critical error," she stated, each word a weapon more precise than any physical projectile. The Krellnax fleet's computational matrices began to fracture. Their targeting systems encountered something fundamentally incomprehensible. These human vessels didn't move like machines. They moved like living organisms, each ship communicating through methods that transcended traditional technological understanding. A Krellnax tactical analyst watched in growing horror as human ships began to adapt in real time, not just responding to threats, but anticipating them, predicting, reshipping. A weapon system would target a human vessel, only to find the ship had already transformed its molecular structure, redirecting the attack with impossible precision. The RSS Defiance led the human formation, a ship that was more than a vessel of war. It was a living system of adaptive intelligence. Its quantum communication network created tactical responses faster than the Krellnax could process. Where alien ships moved in predetermined patterns, human vessels danced. Unpredictable, fluid, alive. Voxnar's primary computational core began to overheat. This was impossible. Every strategic model, every predictive algorithm suggested total human capitulation. Yet here they were, not just defending, but fundamentally challenging every principle of technological engagement. Human ships began to merge and separate in complex formations that resembled living organisms more than mechanical constructs. A group of vessels would suddenly combine into a larger, more complex system, then break apart moments later, each transformation a tactical masterpiece that defied computational prediction. Tactical anomaly. A Krellnax communication officer reported, his voice betraying something close to fear. Human vessels are adapting beyond predictive models. The space around Saturn became a canvas of technological warfare, unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Human ships moved with a fluidity that suggested they were thinking, feeling entities. They communicated in ways that were part technological, part something entirely new. Humanity wasn't just fighting. They were rewriting the very rules of interstellar conflict. And the Krellnax were beginning to understand. They had made a terrible mistake. The first shots of the conflict weren't fired with conventional weapons. They were launched through transmission arrays that pulsed with a complexity beyond anything the Krellnax had ever encountered. Dr. Kambal Rajiv watched from the Pacific Rim's Psychological Warfare Center as the first wave of transmissions began. Each signal was a carefully crafted masterpiece of human communication, mathematical cones that twisted through alien communication networks like living algorithms. Target their computational logic, he instructed his team. But not with logic, with something far more dangerous. The transmissions were beautiful in their complexity. They weren't just messages. They were living systems of information that could reshape themselves in real time. Emotional paradoxes embedded within quantum encryption. Linguistic structures that could simultaneously mean multiple contradictory things. Communication patterns that defied every principle of predictive analysis. A linguist named Maria Santos had spent months developing these transmission protocols. The Krellnax process information like a mathematical equation, she explained. We're going to show them that information is an art form. The first wave hit the Krellnax communication networks like a quantum tsunami. Their most advanced AI systems began to fragment. Computational matrices designed to process millions of data points per microsecond suddenly encountered inputs that defied their most fundamental programming. Each transmission was a puzzle, a challenge, a psychological warfare tool that went far beyond traditional understanding. Voxnar's primary communication hub began to destabilize. The transmissions weren't just data, they were something more profound. Emotional complexity wrapped in mathematical precision. Philosophical challenges disguised as communication protocols. It's impossible, a Krellnax communication specialist reported, her voice betraying a hint of what might have been fear. The transmissions. They're alive. And they were. Each signal adapted, learned, reshaped itself in microseconds. Where the Krellnax expected linear communication, they found a living system of information that challenged every principle of their computational understanding. Dr. Rajiv watched the holographic displays, a subtle smile crossing his face. "Humans aren't a problem to be solved," he muttered. "We're a reality that cannot be computed." The psychological battlefield expanded. Human transmission arrays began to broadcast complex emotional landscapes, data that was part mathematical equation, part living consciousness. They weren't just communicating. They were fundamentally challenging the very concept of communication. Uncertainty became humanity's most potent weapon. The Krellnax computational systems continued to fragment, encountering a form of intelligence that was simultaneously rational and irrational, predictable and completely unpredictable. Humanity had turned information itself into a weapon. The moment of true transformation began not with a massive battle, but with a subtle shift in the fundamental understanding of conflict. Human forces didn't just defend Earth. They launched a counteroffensive that penetrated deep into Krellnax territory, with a precision and creativity that left other galactic civilizations in stunned silence. Each movement was a statement, each strategic decision a revolutionary concept of warfare that redefined interstellar engagement. Admiral Catherine Jung stood on the bridge of the RSS Defiance, her hands moving across holographic interfaces that seemed to anticipate her thoughts. Around her, the ship's neural network pulsed with a living intelligence that was part machine, part something entirely new. "They expected us to fight like them," she said quietly to her second-in-command, Dr. Elena Rodriguez. "Linear, predictable, controlled." The human fleet moved like a living organism. Ships merged and separated in complex formations that resembled biological systems more than mechanical constructs. Where the Krellnax expected rigid strategic patterns, they encountered a fluid, adaptive intelligence that seemed to breathe and think in real time. Other spacefaring civilizations watched with growing fascination. The Zorntok Confederation, long subjugated by Krellnax technological superiority, observed every moment of the conflict with a mixture of hope and disbelief. Humanity wasn't just challenging the Krellnax. They were challenging the entire existing paradigm of galactic power dynamics. A transmission intercepted from a distant observation point captured the essence of the moment. "The humans do not fight," a Zorntok analyst reported. "They negotiate with reality itself." The counteroffensive was a masterpiece of adaptive strategy. Human ships could reconfigure their molecular structure mid-battle, redirect energy weapons with impossible precision, communicate through quantum channels that defied traditional understanding. Each movement was simultaneously a defensive and offensive action, a living, breathing strategy that existed beyond the binary concepts of attack and defense. Voxnar's computational matrix began to comprehend the true nature of the threat. This wasn't just a military engagement. It was a fundamental challenge to the Krellnax understanding of technological development, of intelligence, of existence itself. Dr. Rodriguez analyzed the battle in real time, her team developing strategies faster than the Krellnax could process them. "We're not just fighting," she explained to her team. "We're demonstrating an entirely new approach to existence." The human fleet pushed deeper into Krellnax territory, each movement a complex dance of technological and strategic innovation. Ships that could think, communicate, and adapt in milliseconds. Strategies that emerged from collective intelligence rather than predetermined algorithms. Other watching civilizations began to understand something profound. Humanity represented something entirely new in the galactic landscape. Not just another emerging species, but a force of nature that could not be categorized, controlled, or comprehended through traditional means. The turning point wasn't about winning a battle. It was about changing everything. The aftermath was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before the United Galactic Council, a gathering of species that had watched humanity's rise with a mixture of terror, fascination, and reluctant respect. Her presentation wasn't a victory speech. It was a fundamental redefinition of existence. "We are not conquerors," she began, her voice carrying across translation systems that struggled to capture the full complexity of human communication. We are possibility incarnate. The chamber fell silent. Representatives from dozens of spacefaring civilizations, some who had been subjugated by the Krellnax for millennia, others who had watched from the margins of galactic politics, listened with an intensity that bordered on religious revelation. The Krellnax delegation sat in stunned silence. Voxnar, once the epitome of computational superiority, now looked like a relic of a dying paradigm. Their entire civilization was built on the concept of predictive control, a concept that humanity had systematically dismantled. Technological advancement is not about control, Rodriguez continued. It's about adaptation, about understanding that intelligence is not a fixed state, but a living, breathing process of continuous transformation. Behind her, holographic displays showed the journey, not just the conflict, but the human story. Research facilities beneath the Andes, collaborative networks spanning continents, the RSS Defiance and its living technological ecosystem. Each image was a testament to something fundamental about humanity. The Zorntok representative, an ancient species that had long been marginalized, was the first to speak. "You have not just defeated the Krellnax," they said. "You have shown us a new way of existing." Admiral Catherine Jung stood at the edge of the chamber, watching. The human fleet, now a living network of adaptive vessels, represented more than a military force. They were explorers, negotiators, a living demonstration of potential. Dr. Kamal Rajiv, the mastermind behind humanity's psychological warfare strategy, approached Rodriguez. "We didn't just fight a war," he said quietly. "We demonstrated that intelligence is an art form." The galactic map began to shift. Centuries of rigid power structures started to crumble. The Krellnax's predictive algorithms, once the foundation of galactic order, now looked like primitive mathematical exercises. Other civilizations began to understand. Humanity wasn't a species to be managed or controlled. They were a force of nature, unpredictable, adaptive, fundamentally unable to be categorized. "We are not your enemy," Rodriguez said, her final words echoing through the chamber. "We are the universe's potential, realized." The galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity had arrived.